It gives me great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, the U.S. Ambassador to Finland, Bruce Oreck. Ambassador Oreck is a lawyer by training. Those of us who live in Colorado may be quite familiar with him. He's long been a champion of energy efficiency. He and his wife Cody founded the Zero Carbon Initiative, and they built a groundbreaking zero energy home in Boulder and have built other zero energy homes elsewhere. He immediately put his passions to work in his new role as ambassador to Finland. He's initiated a complete energy-efficient renovation of the U.S. Embassy in Helsinki. It'll be the first embassy in the world to utilize district heating and cooling. It'll also be the first embassy to have all solid-state lighting, LED and OLED, not even compact fluorescence, state-of-the-art lighting. Not stopping there, Ambassador Oreck is chair of the League of Green Embassies. It's a global network of over 90 diplomatic missions pursuing energy efficiency and renewable energy around the world. Ambassador Oreck is one of those people who puts 100% into everything he does. He was a Grand Canyon river guide for 10 years. Rowing rubber rafts was too easy, so he piloted wooden dories down the Grand Canyon for 10 years. He's a champion fencer and a champion bodybuilder, that's just to name a few. We're very lucky to have Ambassador Oreck as a worldwide spokesman for energy efficiency and renewable energy, and it's truly an honor to have him address our conference. Please welcome U.S. Ambassador to Finland, Bruce Oreck.
As they would say in Finland, tervetuloa, hyvää päivää, or hyvää huomenta. You can practice that later. So I am going to do something that I usually do, which is not to do what they think I'm going to do. So let's see if I can get them. There we go. All right. So I am the United States Ambassador. I'm with the U.S. State Department. And I'll take up just a minute to really tell you what we're talking about in my business, which is a new relationship with energy for the 21st century. That's the story that we tell around the globe that we try to implement. Just a minute. This is the embassy. The building on the sort of the far right as you look at it, the screen is a 100-year-old building which will come on this year as a LEED Platinum EB building. District heating, district cooling, over 90% efficiency. As Chuck mentioned, it'll be the first fully solid-state building. I think any government building, actually. We're doing a lot of firsts, and we help other embassies around the globe with their agenda. Another view, this is us right on the Baltic there. Here's another view. Anyway, that's all, and this is the Innovation Center, as we call it, where we're using this as basically as a showcase to demonstrate, deploy, and advance the new technologies around energy efficiency. And we do a lot of work within the rubric of the League of Green Embassies, a term that I hate but that I inherited. We have about now almost 100 U.S. embassies around the globe and some foreign embassies as well. And we partner in the private sector. For example, we have a very good and active partnership with the Alliance to Save Energy. And what we do is we work on this theme. I don't recall if the slide is, oops, okay, let's go back. So that's what we do on that part. I'm now done talking about that. What I want to talk to you about is something different. While we are all here working with the idea and the goals of creating this new relationship with energy for the 21st century, we're not actually using the tool sets that we should be. So I'm going to take a quick poll, if I can see past these lights. How many of you out there are engineers by training? Got it. Anybody from the humanities? Did you get lost? So I want to address all of you in the following way. To have a new relationship with energy in the 21st century, we must first have a new relationship with language for the 21st century. A new relationship with language. Yes, folks, this is it. You were good with physics, chemistry, EE, but now the dreaded topic of semantics. You skipped class in college, I know it for a fact, and now we're going to do it. Semantics, may be hard to read. The science of meaning in language. What separates us from the animal kingdom above all else is our ability to communicate. And semantics is a science. Language is a science. And I'm going to ask that we now think about how we use that in our search for this new relationship with energy, and frankly, how bad a job we've been doing with it, because we have not been good scientists. To conduct this conversation, we're going to turn to an American politician, a Greek philosopher, an English polymath, and a German physicist along this journey. Yes, folks, these are our guides to our new relationship with energy in the 21st century, because they will be the guides to our new relationship with language. Let us begin. I want to reiterate this. The conversation we're having now is not about this. Does anybody actually know what that is? Room full of scientists? Good, I've made my point. That, by the way, is the formula, the basis for which the calculus on basically global warming. You can't have a conversation using that language. It is all about this. The new relationship with energy today is not about technology. It is about this. Words. The words that we use, the words that we have used, the words that we choose to use are what is holding us back. And I'm going to prove it to you. So let us start with this handsome devil. I choose him because he's the only person I could find who is actually older than I am. This is Aristotle, the great Greek philosopher, who basically, in his book on interpretation, written about 350 BCE, said this. He said, words and chains of words are tools that don't just reflect thinking, but shape thinking. The words you use create the thinking. They don't merely tell what you are already thinking. It's a very powerful thought. Now, that's what he said some 2,300 years ago. And interestingly enough, current science has proven him right. A paper in the Proceedings of the National Academy basically said that language affects what we see, the right side of our brain. It affects half of what we see. What we actually see is impacted by the words that we choose. We use our words carelessly. These are powerful weapons. They've been described by a poet as nuclear bombs. They actually, the science tells us, they actually affect what we see. So let's start with Aristotle to basically make clear that this is not a strictly classroom exercise. It is a physical fact of our world. So the guy, Aristotle, for not bad, for 2,300 years ago, he knew some stuff. Now I want to talk about the apple guy. I want to talk about that apple guy. No, not this apple guy. This apple guy. Sir Isaac Newton, the great English polymath, one of the greatest geniuses of all time. And Sir Isaac Newton said something that is going to be critical to our new relationship with energy in the 21st century, our new relationship with the language of that in the 21st century. And this is what he said. He said, this is the apple guy. He started thinking about gravity when an apple fell on his head. So the story goes. Come on, give me a break here, will you? This was not easy. Okay, not that kind of apple, but an apple fell on his head, supposedly, and he began to think about gravity. And that got him thinking about basically all of the laws of motion. And this is what he said. He said, I just want to give you a moment to read that. This is an English polymath. For those of you who, besides skipping your class in semantics, also managed to skip out of your Latin class, this is what he said. He said, an object at rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion with the same speed and at the same direction unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. Newton's first law of motion. An object at rest stays at rest. An object in motion stays at the same speed, same direction in motion unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. Say that another way, it is the law of inertia. What does that have to do with our new relationship with both language and energy? Well, I need to take a small detour. And I'm going to detour to this young fellow. Anybody know who that is? Guys get out much? Arthur C. Clarke. Exactly. The great science fiction writer. And a thinker, a philosopher in many ways. And Arthur C. Clarke, you may know him from, most people know him from 2001: Space Odyssey, but his thinking was much more profound than that and much deeper than that. And many science fiction writers, Arthur C. Clarke being one of them, actually were better prophets and have proven to be better prophets of the future than technicians, than scientists. So what I'm going to want you to listen to now and watch, this is a clip of Arthur C. Clarke predicting the future in 1964. This is 1964.
Trying to predict the future is a discouraging and hazardous occupation because the prophet invariably falls between two stools. If his predictions sound at all reasonable, you can be quite sure that in 20 or at most 50 years, the progress of science and technology has made him seem ridiculously conservative. On the other hand, if by some miracle a prophet could describe the future exactly as it was going to take place, his predictions would sound so absurd, so far-fetched, that everybody would laugh him to scorn. Let's start by looking at the city of the future. Some people think that it will be like this. And they're quite right. In fact, everything you see now already exists. All the materials, all the ideas, these things could be put into practice immediately. But what about the city of the day after tomorrow, say the year 2000? I think it will be completely different. In fact, it may not even exist at all. I'm thinking of the incredible breakthrough which has been made possible by developments in communications. These things will make possible a world in which we can be in instant contact with each other, wherever we may be, where we can contact our friends anywhere on Earth, even if we don't know their actual physical location. It will be possible in that age, perhaps only 50 years from now, for a man to conduct his business from Tahiti or Bali just as well as he could from London. I am perfectly serious when I suggest that one day we may have brain surgeons in Edinburgh operating on patients in New Zealand.
What happened? What happened? How did he get half of it so incredibly right and the other half so incredibly wrong? It's 1964. You better study your history books at that, and the Democrats control both the House and the Senate and the White House. But nevertheless, so let's start with what we agree on. This is an incredibly prescient analysis of the future in 1964. That's a little shortened version of the clip. He's talking about transistors and satellite communications. He gets some of the underlying technology wrong, but he gets the whole cell phone and internet thing and, surgery, maybe by the year 2000. How outrageous is that? And then he's showing you those images that you see of the city of the future were images taken in part from the 1964 New York World's Fair General Motors Pavilion, showing the city of the future. And of course we'll have that, because all those materials already exist, and all those ideas. So what happened? People keep on doing what they're doing. You see, Isaac Newton didn't merely identify the first law of motion as a law of physics. He identified a law of human behavior. People keep on doing what they're doing. A body at rest remains at rest, and one in motion remains in motion in the same direction unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. In respect to the cell phone and internet and all that stuff, there was a vacuum that did not exist, and therefore into that vacuum rushed new technologies and change. But as to buildings, the city of the future, really? In 1964, a city had, if you lived in a city, you had subways and buses. I still have those today. I had an apartment, still got that today. I had lights, that existed. Had cooling, that existed. Grocery store down the street, that was there. The only thing that's happened in the 50 some odd years that have transpired since that film clip in the city is that you've got more cars and more traffic and more aggravation, but everything else has remained the same. The law of inertia has full application here. People keep doing what they're doing. Therefore, what we have to take away from the law of motion that Sir Isaac Newton teaches us is that we must create an unbalanced force. You must do something to keep the laws of physics and human behavior in change. And you've got to get the object at rest, not at rest, or the object in motion, not in that same direction or at that same speed. You must create the unbalanced force. So let's go on to this guy. Now, I just want to go on the record. I want to get this out front. I am not jealous of his hair. So, you know him. And he said, Albert Einstein said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Doing the same thing over and over and getting different results. Saying the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is insane. We have, in this conversation, been saying the same thing over and over, decade after decade, using the same words. There are estimated well over 250,000 words in the English language. Finnish is a good comparison, maybe has 6,000, 7,000. And out of those 250,000 words, we've been using the same damn handful of crummy words for 50 years and expecting a different result. Who's crazy? So let us turn to the last of the four horsemen, Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, and a Republican. Not that it matters. Abe Lincoln was a man who grew up without an education in a log cabin that probably was derived, frankly, from the technology brought in by settlers from the Nordics, from Finland, where I serve. And Abe Lincoln, a man who was, frankly, gawky, very thin, arms were too long. According to the historical record, he had a high and squeaky voice, and big ears, an ungainly man in every respect, and who without an education did understand the power of the word. Perhaps no politician in the history of America understood the power of the word the way Abe Lincoln did. And in 1862, during the terrible Civil War of America, Abe Lincoln, addressing Congress, said this. He said, in a speech, he used the word disenthrall. To disenthrall, to give up being enthralled by. And he said this. He said, the dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, we must think anew, and we must act anew. We must disenthrall ourselves, and then we shall save our country. Powerful words by a man who had no education. As our case is new, so we must think anew. We must act anew. We must disenthrall ourselves. And then we can have a new relationship with energy in the 21st century. The problem, the challenge, technology is not it. Sure, there are technological obstacles. They will be overcome. The challenge is in our words. Catch your breath. Semantics class is now going from low speed into high speed. Are you ready? So, here's what we know already. Words do not merely describe what we think, they shape what we think and what we see. They shape what we think and what we see. 2, people will keep doing what they're doing unless acted upon by the unbalanced force. 3, if you speak the same way you have always spoken, you'll get the same thing you've already got. And 4, to think anew and act anew, we must disenthrall ourselves from our current vocabulary. Okay, that's where we've come to this point. Now let's proceed to the next step. Language exerts hidden power, like the moon on the tides. Isn't that beautiful? Language exerts hidden power, like the moon on the tides. We can be like the moon if we use our words. So, time for class. A euphemism. We all generally know what a euphemism is. It's describing, using different words for the same thing to make it seem better. Rapeseed oil is the same thing as canola oil. And it's more or less self-explanatory in English why we might choose to buy canola oil instead of rapeseed oil, right? It's merely a euphemism. It's the same damn thing. It's the same oil. But the euphemism is a way of describing something using different words to make it seem better or more acceptable. Here's another one. Certified pre-owned car. When I was growing up, it was a used car. You know, did you buy that used clunker from this guy? Today, it's a certified pre-owned car. By the way, you notice it doesn't even say it was used. I owned it. I simply kept it in the garage. I never drove it. It's simply pre-owned, never used. Right? Words have importance. Words have import. The euphemism is actually a valuable tool. That's why they do it. If you didn't think it mattered, why don't you say used cars? Right? Here's one of my favorites. When I speak to the Canadian ambassador today about tar sands, he immediately says, oil sands. Really. You read the papers today, go pick up the New York Times from the Wall Street Journal, and they have been convinced that the bituminous tar sands are somehow oil. They have been magically transmutated. You know, alchemy exists in the power of language. These are no longer tar sands. These are oil sands. And if it didn't matter, they wouldn't make the effort to change the vocabulary. The euphemisms you use are powerful tools, like the moon on the tides. Now you know what a euphemism is. Let's go on. Is anybody here familiar with the concept of a dysphemism? I knew you skipped class. I knew it. Okay, dysphemism. A dysphemism is using terms to describe something to make it seem worse. The easiest one in the political day is the death panel, right? You're familiar with the term death panel in connection with Obamacare? Hang on. This is what the death panel describes. Section 1233 of Bill H.R. 3200, which would have paid physicians for providing voluntary counseling to a Medicare patient about living wills, advance directives, and end-of-life care. So that if I was a patient and I was suffering from terminal cancer and I wanted my physician to talk to me about hospice, maybe organ donations, advance directives, a living will, that's what this bill would have said, hey, we'll cover those costs. But that became death panels. That is a dysphemism. And if you don't get the power of dysphemism in language, how effective has that been? Right? You can stop, probably go outside, ask anybody you want about that formula for global warming, and they'll look at you like you just landed from another planet. But if you take that same person and say, what do you know about death panels? Well, they're bad things. I know that's a bad thing. I don't want to be in death. I don't want to be, someone pull the plug on grandma. It has nothing to do with the facts. It's a dysphemism. That's the fact. Big oil. That's a bad dysphemism. We, in the sort of alternative fuel energy conversation, love to brand oil as big oil, and we think we're really using the power of language. Boy, if we got that wrong. You don't create a dysphemism by using a good word. Big. Big is better. He's the big man on campus. I drive a big car. Size matters. Big is a word that is a good thing in America. So how do you try to describe oil as being a bad thing when you use a good thing? If you want to describe end-of-life instructions, you wouldn't say it's a health panel. You call it a death panel. So this is a bad dysphemism, one that we like, but it's a bad thing. So we are actually going to come back to the conversation around energy. Hard to believe. This is a conference on energy. So, good news, folks. We're almost there, but not quite. So, a little more semantics. Connotation versus denotation. That's a dog. That's actually my dog. This is Deckard, the ambassador dog. Yeah, it is. Cute boy, huh? He's about yay tall. He's a big hit. The Finns love him. That's the only reason they put up with me, because they like my dog. So he sent out his own Christmas card this year, actually, by email. Anyway, but dog. Let's use the word, dog. If I say dog, I mean that. If I say, the guy's a dog, I'm not saying he's Deckard the dog. I'm saying something bad about him, right? It means maybe you are physically unattractive or you're morally reprehensible, right? That is a connotation. And we need to know what that means in terms of energy. So, by the way, a denotation is, you can, again, this is the idea of bringing something down. I don't know why this didn't connect to that. You can denote, you can make something bad, and you connote, and you can make it good. But anyway, so let's do this with energy. 3 examples about how we need to change our language to get to the new relationship. Number 1, go green. Are you crazy? Stop using that miserable word. It is poisonous to your objectives. First of all, it takes the entire concept of a new relationship with energy, the building block of the entire 21st century global network of nations, whether it's economic, military, I don't care. The energy, our relationship with energy is the fundamental building block, and we wanted to take this entire concept and want to make it go green. Go to the internet, look up the word green energy, and this is what you get. Hippies holding hands, singing Kumbaya. Really? There's 250,000 words out there, folks. Green started in the days of Woodstock. And when you say green to most Americans, and certainly to anybody in the finance department and Wall Street, they think of this. They think you're still here. It's stupid. Stop doing it. Really, if you have any literature with the word green on it, I implore you, burn it. Get rid of it. Stop using that word. Number 2, energy saving. Okay, energy saving. So let's do a little more language here. To save means to deliver from sin, to rescue or deliver from danger or harm, to preserve or guard from destruction, to put aside as a store or reserve, to spend less. Let's just focus on that side of the definition for a moment. The connotation when you say save, what's the phrase that comes to mind? Scrimp and save. Can I sell you some scrimp? Would you like to be in this, how'd you like to be scrimping along, huh? Of course it's a crummy word. Now look at the word earn. To receive is return for effort, especially for work done or services rendered. To come to be duly worthy of and to be entitled to. That's a power word. If I offer the average person on the street, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you $20 savings a month on your parking. Or I'll give you a $240 raise a year. They'll take the raise. Would you like to earn more or save more? The power of words. One, these are the definitions, but savings denotes scrimp and save, hanging on by a thread, earning, making money. That denotes power and worthiness. Connotes that. On April 30th, 2012, the T-bill rate for 10 years was 1.95%. For most of the technologies that we're talking about here, a blend, an integrated approach, an integrated design approach to energy efficiency, and if you want to put on renewables on top of that, you've got ROIs, returns that yield maybe as low as 16%. In the case of what we're doing in Europe with the League of Green Embassies, a term I hate, we're getting as high as 50% per annum. T-bill rate, 1.95%. I'm getting as much as 50% per year. Why would I want to describe that as savings to protect from sin? I'm not selling you savings. I'm making you money. Stop talking about yourself as energy savers, because you're not. You want to be in there with the Wall Street boys, then you got to earn money. How would you like to make more money? Would you like to make money? You know I do. That's what the Republicans will tell you. That's what business people will say. That's what Democrats will tell you. Sure, I want to make more money. Stop selling savings. You're selling the wrong thing, because you're really selling earnings. You're really selling profits. You're really selling how would you like to make more money. By the way, before we just go past this, with all this excitement about tight gas, horizontal drilling and fracking and all that stuff, billions and billions of dollars are being poured in by Wall Street. They're creating all sorts of crazy derivatives to do that. Do you know that in the Barnett Shale in Texas, the most prolific gas fields in all of the U.S., that only about 20% of the wells pay out in 7 years? The rest of them either don't pay out or pay out longer. 7 years. And they never talk about saving anything. They talk about earning money. Every bit of the energy efficiency technologies, and you want to combine those with renewable energy generation, all of those make money at much higher rates. Much higher rates. Stop selling savings. This is that, by the way, is the image of horizontal drilling, cleaned up to make it look pretty. I want to talk to you about that for a second. There's a water issue. What that says that you can't read, it says, this is from the fracking gives Texas another oil boom, but at a huge water cost. Oil pipelines, all this kind of stuff. Stop fracking. This is a conversation that, the bottom line is, this is a production decline curve on a gas well. You can see that actually, it's hard to read, but the way that, if you can read that, you'd see that fracked wells decline much faster than conventional wells, and they as much as about 83% in 2 years. It's showing gas and oil price instability, all that kind of stuff. Now, why am I showing you all that? Because if I'm going to sell this as an example, I'm going to show you how to do it. So with the fracking, there's going to be dry holes, right? That's a risk. If you're selling, how would you like to be in the energy exploration business? Because that's what that gas stuff is. I'm going to show you how to sell this, right? You're in the energy exploration business. You're not in the savings business. So what I'm going to do is, in all of these, let's just go back. I want to set this stage correctly for you. So here we go. A gas horizontal well could be dry holes. 2, tremendous demand on the water resources. To give you an example how much, in the Barnett Shale again, last year 1,400 wells were drilled, horizontal wells were drilled in this one field in Texas. Last year, over 92% of Texas counties were in extraordinary drought. Over hundreds of deaths, fires everywhere. The Barnett Shale last year, just that one reserve to drill those fracked wells, it took as much unrecovered fresh water as would be used by the city of New York in a week. You think Texas, where they had this immense drought, they gave up the amount of water that New York City uses in 1 week to drill those wells. Got that problem. Then you have, how do you get the gas to where it's going? That cost. Then you have all the protesters. Then you have the decline curves. Then you have the price instability. You drill a well, what are you going to get on your return for the gas that you get up? Who knows? Gas prices up and down, up and down. Look at it. The blue is natural gas. Look what's happened to prices. So, in the energy business that you're in, I'll guarantee you no dry holes, Mr. Wall Street banker. I guarantee you in my exploration business, there will be no dry holes. Guarantee it. 2, we don't use water. Not anything measurable. Maybe one of our workers, goes to the bathroom once or twice a day, but that's about it. But there's no water demand, nothing like in fracking. Transport, there's no transport costs. You don't have to worry about XL pipelines or any other pipelines or that kind of stuff. Good news, the protesters will be at home on their couch watching Animal Planet because they won't be out protesting us because we have no adverse environmental impact and we have no decline curve. And unlike conventional energy exploration, where prices go up and down, I can guarantee you that the prices that you get for this energy, at worst case, are flat, but are going to go up. I guarantee it. How's that possible? Because energy efficiency is the first energy. It's there. It's proven. We know it's there. You won't have a dry hole. There's no environmental downside. It doesn't take water. It doesn't deplete. And because utilities are regulated entities where their price, when was the last time anyone's utility bill went down? Anyone ever recall to the memory of Rand, not to the contrary, that utility costs have never gone down, right? They don't go down. They go up. It doesn't matter how oil gets more expensive, less expensive gas. They don't care. It just goes up. Stop selling savings. You're in the energy exploration business. And you match that with renewables, and all of a sudden the guys are making tons of dough. Would you like to make more money with no risk? That's what you're selling. Stop selling green. Stop selling savings. You got the best product on the planet. You're selling ice cream on a hot summer day, and somehow you can't seem to sell it one. That's what you're in. 250,000 words. Let's be smarter. So let me conclude by returning to where we sort of started with Abe Lincoln. And in Congress, addressing Congress again, he said this. He said, "Fellow citizens, we cannot escape history. We of this Congress and this administration will be remembered in spite of ourselves. No personal significance or insignificance can spare one or another of us. The fiery trial through which we pass will light us down in honor or dishonor to the latest generation. We, even we here, hold the power and bear the responsibility. We, even we here, hold the power and bear the responsibility." Thank you very much.